You are now watching Serial Chillers podcast. Here.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Oh my God. No way. Oh my
Welcome, everybody, to Serial Chillers podcast, Chiller Chatter X. Yeah, dude, Chiller Chatter 10 tonight. As always, I ask, how goes it? Hey, don't talk to your song, please. Hello, Greg.
Can I be honest with you, man?
I would expect it no other way.
I was good right up until about 45 seconds ago, and now I'm all jammed up. I've got like a yawn, a burp, and a sneeze all like gridlocked inside me, and I'm not sure when or how they're gonna come out.
I can't wait for the moment that they do. I'm here for it, and I'm excited. Just your face right now. I know everybody out there in audio land can't see Greg's face, but just Greg's face right now is making me feel that like I also have one for some reason, and like I didn't at all. Prior, he's like somehow through the internet giving me a burp, sneeze, fart. Stuck in my chest.
I'm afraid I'm gonna yawn and then belch at the end of the yawn.
There goes mine.
And then finish it with a sneeze.
And then he's gonna puke all over the microphone. Well, I can't wait, Craig. Good to hear you're doing well.
That's all I brought. I didn't bring a story tonight. I just brought that.
He's like, and if you're lucky, a loud belch later.
If I'm lucky.
So, we've got a few stories for you tonight. I've got a couple short ones. Greg's brought one that when we talked about it as Greg and I usually sit here and chat for at least 30 minutes about, nothing.
It has been half an hour. Exactly.
It's a nice way to catch up. We don't get to talk as much as we used to. So it's a good way for us to catch up when we do Chiller Chatter. But I was like, what'd you bring tonight? And he said it. And I was like, fuck, I have no idea what that is. And then he threatened to never tell me about it ever again. So we got to convince him to do it tonight. But I brought two stories as well. So I'm going to do one of these short ones. Greg's going to tell us his story, read the art. You got an article or you going off the top?
So I had I had an outline I was going on, and I was working on it, and I decided, you know what? This story is better left just freestyled.
All right. Freestyling. Sometimes when I freestyle, I lose confidence.
And when I tell my story, I encourage you to ask questions because I am freestyling, so I may leave something out.
Okay, I'll do my best. Yeah. I feel like the pressure's on now.
Yeah.
The heat is up. Okay, so 3 stories in total for you guys tonight. Bonus, technically, generally only 2 for a Chiller Chatter. So I should say from the top, both of mine are from I've had them for a little while, but they are fairly short, so I didn't know quite what to do with them. But now I've got them here, and I'm excited to bring them to you, Kelly G. Pile. So these are both Kelly G stories that are just she sent them to me. She was like, dude, I don't know what you could do with them. They're short, but they're interesting. And she's not wrong. So the first one here is a very weird one. Man, I just had like a drink of Coke, and now you're making me feel like I just every single sip is giving me these giant gas bubbles in my chest.
Yeah. See what happens? That's quantum, dude. That shit went faster than no, probably not faster than the speed of light, because the speed of light's pretty fast. We'll get into that later in my story.
Oh, shit, will we? Well, this one, first one we have is a disappearance of Bryce Laspisa, or Laspisa. So when I get something like this, especially because I didn't want to make a mistake of saying something like run like the wind, whenever I see a last name that I'm like, oh, that's not incredibly common, I'm going to go listen to like a couple news stories, or like watch a documentary. I'll be honest, I didn't have time for that. But I did
Watch somebody else
watch.
do the drill so you know how to do the drill. I get it.
Yeah, I watched 3 separate news stories. All 3 news stories pronounce his last name differently. So
So you're
it's
gonna have
it's
to pick a fourth.
LAS. I gotta find a fourth one. It's a Laspisa. So I think it's either Laspisa or Laspisa.
Laspisa
Um,
is what I would go with, but that's just
yeah,
me,
that's the one
and
that
I'm
I
often
that's the
wrong.
one that I thought as well. Laspisa. So we'll just go mostly by Bryce, just so we don't have to say it a bunch. But he's been missing for a little over 10 years now. Bryce David Laspisa was born April 30th, 1994, graduated in 2012 from Naperville High School, which is a suburb of Chicago. He was charismatic and successful in sports and arts. So he's from, the Chicago area. He's like pretty well known, like popular kid. He's a good athlete, not like take you to college D1 scholarship type shit, but enough where it was something that people like remembered him for.
He
And
was,
he
like, on
was like
track to, like, managing a car dealership or something.
yeah, 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 yeah. And you know what? God damn it! And when you're out there in what town did I say it was called?
Chicago.
Naperville. No, Naperville is where he's from. Suburb of Chicago. But yeah, he's from what I have gathered about Bryce. Pretty popular dude. He started college at Sierra College in Rockland, California, which is obviously like not very close to where
It's a
home
long that's a long
Naperville.
commute.
Yeah, it's like a 7-hour flight. So he was a graphic and industrial design major. So he's working towards what everybody says he was good at. He's the better of the two. You doing sports anymore, Bryce? No, 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 no. Just the design. So he had finished his freshman year, and over the summer, yeah, I mean, you were a good point guard, but let's be honest, passing is important, but we need a score or two.
Listen, you had
He
a
lived with this.
curveball, but no fastball. You were getting taking yard all the time. I'm glad you stuck with the graphic design.
He lived with his parents in Laguna Niguel and took English class at a local college. So he stayed busy over summer, right? So finished freshman year, went and lived with his parents, took an English class, did some stuff. By all accounts of friends and family, he seemed to be fairly normal and happy over the summer. He heads back to Sierra College about 2 weeks before his sophomore year had begun to like settle in and get things rolling. On August 27th, 2013, he started his first classes of his sophomore year. He had a speech and web design course, and after his first day, he called his mom and told her how much he enjoyed the classes on that first day. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
He had his first day of sophomore year. Called mom, said, "Yo, these classes kick ass. This is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna kill it just like I did last year." Fast forward the next day, August 28th, 2013. His friend said Bryce had been up for days and was heavily drinking hard liquor. So this
Been there.
is right. But this is running directly into when we're saying like he went to his first classes of sophomore year and called his
And
mom and said, "I love him." But his friends are like, "Yeah, but at that point, he had been up drinking for literal days." Um, Additionally, his friend said that he was taking Vyvanse, which is a prescription drug for ADHD, and it's similar to Adderall. However, Vyvanse is like it's only slow release, so you can't snort it. And I'm not going to like explain anything on how you can, but I
I will.
have well, you definitely can still snort a slow release pill. It is just a painstaking process. However, drug addicts will go through some pretty painstaking processes to get what they want. So
We
I
prefer to
don't
be
know what
called
Bryce is up to.
connoisseurs.
Connoisseurs of
Yeah.
drugs will go through some pretty painstaking tasks.
Yeah.
But Vyvanse is a slow release ADHD medicine. Basically, an alternative to Adderall that some physicians find safer.
Yeah, they'll do the slow release or whatever so that one, you can't abuse it, and two, because it's slow release, so it happens gradually throughout the day rather than a big spike and then a taper off.
Yeah, maybe he was just butt chugging Vyvanse. I don't know.
Fuck yeah.
So that's what college is all about, guys. If you're using the show for research,
I think
don't.
it's called boofing though.
Yeah, you know.
Like it's only butt chugging if it's a liquid.
Yeah, you got to make a liquid out of the slow release. You throw it in a slurry. You got to make a slurry. If you're using the show for research this time, do.
I just hide mine in a
Uh,
keys.
so his friend said that he had been acting strange on his Vyvanse and liquor, and that they were concerned. Yeah, I would imagine that they
He
were
had a diet of
concerned.
no sleep, slow release speed, and fucking liquor.
Yeah. That's correct. So his friend said that he was acting quote unquote strange. I don't mean to laugh. This dude does not turn back up. His roommate Sean calls Bryce his mom and tells her that frankly they're concerned. So they're not only just expressing to one another that they're concerned any longer, they've now reached out to his mom. Like that's how you know as a teenager shit has gotten serious. You're
I
like,
was
fuck, we have
just
to
gonna
call his
say,
mom.
I was a problem for a while. You can vouch for that.
Yeah.
And at no point did anybody be like, "Hey, I'm gonna have to call your mom."
That's because we
But
knew we could drop your dumbass off on like your front porch and ring the doorbell and run, and your mom would get you the next morning when she woke up.
but still, like nobody was like, "Hey, I gotta tell your mom, and she's gotta have a talk with you." Like, and I was a problem. So for somebody to be like, "Hey, we gotta get your parents involved." Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's taking slow release ADHD medicine. His roommates are so concerned they're calling mom. Even Greg didn't get his mom called. Uh, so at one point, Bryce texts Sean, his roommate, and says something like, I love you, bro. Seriously, you're the best person I've ever met. You saved my soul. Sean answered, I love you too, man. You have an amazing life full of blessings. Don't waste that. Because he disappeared and was never found, people thought Bryce tried to kill himself and point to this text exchange as one of those reasons. It very well could be a goodbye text, but a lot of people also just say it's just like a thank you text for helping him out once he called his mom. I don't think a lot of people like thank their friends for calling their mom, at least not this immediately after.
yeah. But also, how many times have you been shit faced and been like, "This guy, this is the guy, man. He's my best friend. I love him. I love you,
I
man."
fucking love this guy, man. You don't
Yeah,
even know. You don't
yeah,
even know.
yeah. That's what that
Yeah,
felt like to
you're
me.
not wrong. You're not wrong. That's like very good point. I yeah, I love you, bro. Seriously, you're the best person I've ever met. You saved my soul. Um, but also,
Does that not sound like something you say to your drunk friend with your arm around your
totally, totally 100%. But every time I hear a story about a young man who has some event that takes place in his early to mid college years, I immediately go to some of these mental health issues we know that don't start poking their head until about this time.
Yeah.
The paranoid delusional schizophrenia and
Did you
things like
know
that
schizophrenia is different in the United States and Canada than it is in other parts of the world?
I did not know that.
In other countries where they have less to worry about, like say maybe Norway or Sweden, where they have like a lot of their basic needs met,
Uh-huh.
um, the schizophrenic voices that they hear, like they still have schizophrenia and they still hear voices, but the voices that they hear are encouraging and positive. Where in
What?
North America, they're paranoid and like people are out to get you. So
This
I
one's
was,
like, hey, you got it, hey.
yeah, you're,
You're doing great out there.
yeah, like wake up in the morning and the voices in your head are like, keep going. All right,
Gonna have some whitefish today, I heard.
you and I, we've got
Uh
this.
That's fucking wild. I had no idea. And now I need to find like a documentary or a YouTube video on that. And
I'll find a
I
link
will.
and maybe I'll post it in the Discord or something.
Perfect. So, yeah, that is strange. It is for sure a strange text to send to your buddy, because even if you're drunk, like, okay, let's be honest. If I'm drunk at this age, I'm probably sending as many texts to girls as I could. I don't know
Yeah.
that I was texting my buddies being like, "I fucking love you, dude. You saved my soul, man." But also there's times that I don't really remember, and I probably did send a text that sounded just like that. So, um, Bryce also gave away his Xbox and a set of diamond earrings. Again, people say this is like kind of a suicide thing, and it is. You're not wrong. Like,
That
giving away
is
personal possessions,
that is a
especially ones
sign.
that are very valuable, is a very clear sign. But a lot of people also say, including his family, who doesn't believe he was suicidal, that is like giving it to his roommate is a lot less. There's a lot less finality to that. It's more like, hey, take this distraction out of my life and get it in like the other room, you know? And so basically his family says that. Some people are like, no, this is a suicidal guy giving all his stuff away. And for the Xbox, you can definitely say that. I don't, and Kelly G points out that like that's a lot harder to explain away for the diamond earrings that he handed over to the roommate.
Yeah. That's well, yeah.
Yeah. So also on August 28th, he texted his girlfriend Kim and just said short and sweet, "You'll be better off without me." She asked if he was breaking up with her, and he said yes. Later that day, Bryce showed up at her house in Chico, California, which was 90 miles north. He maintained that they were breaking up. So he drove to her house 90 miles north to be like, "Yeah, we are still breaking up. Just so you know." She was pretty shocked and confused by the whole situation, and it wasn't helped by the fact that he didn't give her a lot of reasons. Also concerned, she took his keys and begged him to just sleep it off at her house. She's not sure that he was still drunk, but she was like, he smelled like booze though, like,
Yeah, but
and I know
driving
for
90
sure there's been,
miles,
yeah,
like,
it's a long drive. Even if you smell like it, the cops are gonna wonder.
well, and I mean, it
So
could have been like he drank on the way,
yeah, you're not wrong.
where
Well, but what I was gonna say in his defense, and not defending, but there's been times where I definitely was not drunk, but I was sweating out the booze from the night before.
yeah,
So it's
it might
like,
have
yeah,
been.
I still smelled like just cheap vodka, but I hadn't been drinking in 6 or 7 hours. I know, dude. I know. But I found weird was this here is that, okay, so she takes his keys. This is actually, I feel like, a good move. Like,
Smart.
sleep it
Like,
off, fucker. You're kind of being an asshole. I got your keys. I'm gonna hide them till the morning. You still want to be an asshole and leave then? Sure, but at least put 6 hours between you and your last drink.
right.
Um, so he calls his, or she calls his mom. So now this is the second concerned person calling Bryce's mom in just a couple days. And Bryce tells his mom, "I'm fine, but we have a lot to talk about." Bryce's mom would then get on the phone with Kim and say, "Please give him his keys back and let him leave." She said that Bryce sounded sober and normal.
I mean, that's good. That's a reasonable
You,
time to give somebody their keys back and allow them to leave after they've driven 90 miles to break up with you for the second time.
I was going to say, after they already broke up with you earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And the mom says, "Oh, no, he sounds normal. Give him his keys."
Oh, it was the mom saying he sounded sober and normal.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, I
So
thought it was.
she's,
I
no,
thought it was.
girlfriend says, "I'm hella concerned. I'm calling mom." The mom says, "Okay, let me talk to him." He talks to her for a while and he tells her, "I'm fine. We just have a lot to talk about, mom." And mom tells girlfriend, "Hey, give him his keys back. He sounds normal and sober to me." And
Oh.
then mom offers to Bryce to fly out to help him with anything that he needs. And Bryce refuses that help. So Bryce would then leave at 11:30 p.m. on August 28th. He called his mom at 1 a.m. and said he was okay. She assumed that he had made it home to Rockland. Later, they found out this call was made from an hour south of his apartment. The next day, August 29th, around 11 a.m., Bryce's mom got a notification that his 2003 Toyota Highlander had needed roadside assistance. A place called Castro Tire and Truck from Buttonwillow had brought him 3 gallons of gas around 9 a.m. Bryce's mom called the place and a guy named Christian answered. He remembered Bryce and told her that he gave Bryce some gas. He was super nice and offered to go back out to see if he was still there. It was around noon and Bryce was in the same spot. Bryce told Christian he was going to get gas and he was going to be home to Laguna Niguel around 3 p.m. Christian relayed that information to Bryce's parents. So this dude's like super customer service, right? He's like going out and just finding a guy for a set of parents. So,
Wow. I
yeah,
mean, that's
exactly.
impressive.
Yeah, 100%. But it's also strange because Bryce was brought the gas to his vehicle in which he had run out of gas at 9 a.m. And when Christian went back at noon on the crazy off chance that he might still be in that same spot 3 hours later,
He was.
he was
Yeah.
had moved and was supposed to be heading home. Um, Around 6 p.m., Bryce's parents filed a missing persons report. They did an emergency ping of his phone, and it said it was still in Buttonwillow. Cops in Buttonwillow would find him 8 miles away from where he was brought gas, still pulled over. They asked him if he was okay, gave him a field sobriety test, and made him call his parents, which he seemed reluctant to do. He said he was fine and he was going to come home. Christian, being super nice, goes fucking back out there,
This
and Bryce
guy.
is in the same spot that the cops had found him. Bryce told Christian he was going to get some caffeine and then he was going home. Bryce is acting,
Erratic.
in my opinion, it sounds like someone who is, for the first time, suffering from paranoid delusions.
Yeah. There's something he's
I-
avoiding,
I-
it sounds
yeah,
like.
yes. I'm not a fucking doctor at all. It's just once you read 900 of these stories, you just start to piece things
I am
together.
a doctor, and I know that that's not right.
Okay, very good.
No, I mean, he's not right. You are correct.
Thank you, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
On the following morning around 11 a.m., Bryce's mom got a notification on the Toyota Highlander. Nope, no, I skipped to the wrong place.
Uh-oh.
So Christian went back out there. He's still there. I'm going to grab some caffeine and go home. Christian had Bryce follow him in the right direction onto the freeway for 30 minutes. Like, let me just make sure this fucking kid knows where he's going type shit, right? So puts him behind him on the freeway and drives for 30 minutes to,
Yeah.
hey, this is home. So again, what's up with Christian being the fucking nicest dude of all time?
Maybe, I mean, honestly, good on him for trying to do everything he could to like help these concerned parents and the police. And I mean, I know
That's true.
like I've been through Button Willow, and I know it's not a very big town, and it's like it's one of those like small town
Small
feel
town
places.
hospitality.
So if somebody calls the police and they're like, "Hey, there's this kid and he's acting really strange, and we got some concerned parents," and the police are like, "Yeah, we'll check it out," and the police talk to the guy, and the guy's like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Hey, maybe keep an eye on him." He's like, "All right, I'll see what I can do," and I can't imagine roadside assistance in Button Willow's probably not like the most poppin' business there. So
Sure.
he probably had a lot of downtime to be able to do that, and especially if he's a good guy with a good conscience, he doesn't want to just let this kid twist in the wind. Would be
Right.
my guess.
And I think you're right. Um, so at 2:01 a.m. on August 30th, Bryce called his mom. So this is, remember, most of what we were talking about here, I think,
Was that the
no, it
28th?
was the 29th.
Okay.
I was wrong. It was the 29th. It's all started on the 28th.
Yeah.
Um,
It's been a hectic
so
couple days.
now, yeah, exactly. It's 2:01 a.m. on the 30th. Bryce called his mom and said that he was too sleepy to finish driving home. He was going to pull over and sleep. And she's like, "Yeah, good idea, dude." At 2:08 a.m., camera captures his license plate driving into a recreation area at Castaic Lake. I know this exact recreation area described, and then Kelly G hits in over a picture. I know this recreation area because I once ran out of gas here, and I pulled it. No, I didn't run out of gas. I got very low on gas. I pulled over to get gas at the gas station, and my card got declined, and I at the time I did not have a bank account because I was living so paycheck to paycheck, but I was cashing my check like at a check cashing place that like had a debit card,
Oh, nice.
and someone emptied my fucking account.
Oh.
So I was in Castaic with no money and an empty tank of fuel, and I had just gotten Nancy Botwin, so she was in the car.
Oh, I love Nancy.
Yeah, so she and I slept in the Forerunner that night until my dad could wire me money the next morning.
Dang, RIP the Forerunner. Also, that's like one of the biggest sources of anxiety in my life is being someplace and out of money and out of gas and just stranded.
And
And
it was like 2 in the morning. It's a
yeah,
strange strange thing, but that recreation area at Castaic Lake is the same exact one that I slept in the Forerunner that night with Nancy.
huh?
Oh, Nancy B. So, um the recreation area has camera and license plate scanner. It's kind of, CHP rolls with those license plate scanners pretty fucking hard. Um, but it does not show, there is nothing reading license plates or cameras for cars that are leaving the recreation area. So while they do know that he pulled in at 2:08, they have no idea how long he would have stayed at the recreation area. However, they do know that he would be captured entering a recreation area at 4:29 a.m. But it's the same recreation area.
So he
2
left and
hours and
pulled
20
back
minutes.
in.
2 hours and 21 minutes later.
Huh?
Yeah.
That
Um,
It's so wild,
yeah.
dude. Like what? And he was only an hour south of his apartment. Why is it now like 2 in the
Well,
morning? And all this?
he's going to his parents. He's going to his parents, which is like now they're living in California, 7 hours away.
Oh, okay. So he never went back to his apartment.
Right. That's why he keeps telling his mom, like, "Oh, I'm on my way. I'll be home soon." Like he's going there. He's going to her.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. He's on the great journey right now.
Gotcha.
At 5:30 a.m., uh, there is an accident that is discovered.
Oh.
Um, Bryce's vehicle had cascaded 25 feet down a ravine and it was on its side when discovered. A back window had been broken from the inside. Phone, laptop, and wallet were found in the car, and a duffel bag was found nearby. And police said that it had been, quote, rifled through. So there's a duffel bag that shit's been kind of torn from and clearly been looked through. But like I just said, phone, laptop, and wallet are all left in the vehicle. But Bryce was gone. He was last seen wearing a pair of Nikes. Shout out Brandon Lawson, says Kelly G. Brandon Lawson was our other missing
Mm,
guy. Remember, he went missing on the side of the road. He was on the phone with his brother and
yeah.
911. So the next morning at 8 a.m., the cops show up to the parents' house wanting to know if their Highlander had been stolen. They told him, police know that's their son's car. He's supposed to be there. And they told him that the car was involved in a serious accident. They later found out that with tire track evidence, Bryce was not trying to prevent the wreck at all. Police and experts say that he had likely actually accelerated into the wreck. They found a tiny amount of Bryce's blood, but did not believe him to be seriously injured due to any signs of his blood. They said there were no drag marks, which indicated that he was able to walk away from the scene of the accident. So tons and tons of theories about what may have happened. His family thinks he got a head injury in the crash and is somewhere living life with amnesia right now. Other people think that he was possibly waiting for a drug dealer in Buttonwillow and made a lot of money and started a new life. Um,
I
I,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So
I mean, so
dogs.
do his parents also think that like they need to, if they find him living this alternate life, they can just crack him on the head with a fucking frying pan and like put him back to where he needs to be? Like
I don't know what they
this is
think.
not a sitcom. It's not a fucking soap opera.
Come on, Michelle Tanner gained hers after falling off a horse after like 1.5 episodes, dude. She got her memory back. So,
Oh, I remember that.
right, I'm going deep cuts for you, buddy.
Wow.
That was like a TGIF special or something.
Yeah. 2-episode special.
they had it queued up all week with hella sad music. You knew it was going to be a serious one. So just tons of theories. I do like the fact that, I would have never thought about the fact that like there are no drag marks. So
Well, that was so
they're like,
I was
yeah,
actually gonna ask not about drag marks specifically, but I was gonna say like if it was there signs because the vehicle's on its side. Was there signs that he maybe crawled out or was attacked by an
yeah. Well,
animal?
the rear windshield was kicked out from the inside.
Which I've been in an upside down Forerunner, so I can imagine what that looks like, and I
Fuck
like,
you.
but I can picture it, and like there's not a ton of room to maneuver inside an upside down Forerunner.
Right. Right.
So like but was there signs of like an animal, or if he's down in a ravine, and like what
I mean,
did
the only signs from him were there are a couple drops of blood, which police say are like basically
right?
it wouldn't have been from a significant injury, and that his duffel bag had been taken out of the vehicle and gone through, but didn't appear to have anything missing. And then in the vehicle, all of his valuables remained. Dogs would also be brought out to pick up his scent, and they would track him back to a nearby truck stop.
Okay.
So, like tracking him out of the vehicle and into a truck stop.
Mm-hmm.
People say that when he was entering the recreation area, that he was likely trying to drive his Toyota into the lake. No one knows, and unfortunately, likely never will. There have been a few bodies discovered in the area that fit time frame and possible descriptions, but none have been definitively attached to Bryce. So, kind of just a strange, interesting mystery that likely won't ever have a definitive answer. Really quickly, a couple sources from it: our True Crime Garage podcast, the Morbid Podcast, Sinisterhood podcast, and charlieproject.org. Um,
So I can tell you
yeah,
my
man.
theory is that he ran with the paranoid delusions. He maybe faked his death and is living somewhere else unmedicated. Is
Just on
or
the streets.
yeah, that's why he hasn't been found. I mean,
Yeah,
like I don't know. And I hope that if I'm right, he's found and gets the help he needs, but it's very difficult to do something like that, to track somebody down who, one, doesn't want to be found, and two, potentially fake their death to get away.
right.
So I don't know.
Uh,
That's just my theory with the
I like your theory.
with the information that I've just been given.
Yeah, I think I would definitely expect more blood from a car accident down a 25-foot ravine.
Right.
Like even a not that steep ravine, the car got onto its side. I don't know. It just feels like there's got to be broken glass. There's going to be some being jostled around. Um, yeah, I have no idea, but it's definitely interesting. charlieproject.org is for that missing persons website, active missing person. So if
Okay.
you guys want to check that out, that's he's still on there. So take it away, buddy. Tell me about this shit I've never heard of. And
Okay.
why, as soon as you start, I'm gonna be like, oh, I've heard of this. Damn it.
Yeah. So this is called uh Project Crystal Knight, or Operation Serpo, and it begins as all great stories do in Roswell, 1947.
I was gonna
Um,
say on Bibliotheca Pleiades.
well, yeah, of course, and then the Y Files is a good YouTube show that I've been getting down on, and a lecture from Dr. Stephen Greer, who's been banging this drum for a long time. So, in 1965, Colonel McKeever is just this cat's a military man through and through. He was in the Air Force. He had no wife, no kids, very limited friends. Um,
I'm married to the force of the air.
Basically, yeah, he had no family to speak of. Um, So he and 11 other astronauts were selected for a secret space program. Um, they were all sheep dipped, which means they had their identities were scrubbed. Social security numbers, IRS
You
records.
guys have seen Men in Black.
Yeah, that's what happens to Will Smith in the beginning. Basically, that happened to Colonel McKeever, and these other 11 astronauts, and they began a 1-year training session. So basically, what happens is this cat uh, joined the secret space program. He goes to this base in New Mexico, and he's taken inside. He's walked in. They take him to an elevator. He gets in. The elevator goes down. There's no buttons in the elevator, so like it only goes to one place, right? And he said it was wherever it went was several floors underground. He's escorted down the hall by a guy in an OSI uniform, which is the Office of Special Intelligence from the Air Force. It's like it's like their military police kind of. And he's like,
Okay.
why are they here? This is weird. And so he goes into this meeting room, and there's a couple of Army dudes, and there's a couple of Navy dudes, and there's a bunch of Air Force dudes, right? And it's all it looks like those Joint Chiefs of Staff meetings where they're all sitting around a table in a war room, and there's a big screen, and they're like, okay, hit it. And he basically tells them, um, so he walks into the base in Nevada, escorted down the elevator, meets the guy from the OSI. They begin an eyes only briefing, and the guy starts it off by saying, fewer than 60 people in the world know what I'm about to share with you. If
Huh.
you repeat what you're here today, you'll be charged with treason or worse. Um,
Oh.
and Dr. Greer, he talks about these in his lecture. He talks about these eyes only meetings, and he says he's been involved in these eyes only meetings. And there's literally a person in the room with a gun and a bullet, and they're like, if you repeat what you hear today, this gentleman over here will take this bullet that now has your name on it, and we'll put it in your body. And
Oh.
yeah, so like it's that kind of level of severity and secrecy. Um, and so they were like, okay, hit it. And they rolled a film. And he said it started off in the desert. And then the little title card said, Roswell, New Mexico, 1947, first contact. And that bothers me even because the crash was in Corona. But
Idiots.
get your facts straight. Um, but they did it. They explained that the crash did in fact happen. And the balloon story was in fact a cover up. And it was to keep people away from looking into it, obviously. They showed footage of the recovery. Like they had, military crew out there filming everything. They had footage of the wreck, which Colonel McKeever said, I don't know, man, I couldn't make heads or tails of it. It was twisted metal that smashed into the ground. Could have been a plane, could have been a saucer, could have been whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, he
What
said
about the super thin mylar and balsa wood?
yeah, that he didn't see that in the video. Um, he said while he's watching the footage of the recovery, they find a survivor, a pilot. Um, and the survivor was captured, and they named him EBA 1, or Extraterrestrial Biological Entity 1. And they also mentioned a second crash in 1949 that garnered far less attention, but it was apparently basically the same kind of ship as the first crash. And so they have technology from these ships and bodies and crew members and stuff like that. EBA 1 was taken to Air Force facility at Los Alamos and lived there until he died in 1952. So for like the next 5 years, they had this alien living in Los Alamos, and they were talking to it, teaching it. It was teaching us. We learned a lot from each other. Like it wrote out its alphabet.
They had Jane Goodall come in, and
I
they taught
mean,
each other sign language.
basically, because they couldn't. The way the Ebens talk is tones. That's how they communicate. It's mostly tones. It's like singing, like atonal,
Beautiful.
like atonal humming, kind of. Um, but he did learn to speak English, sort of. It was really, really broken. But he also taught us the Eben language, and like I said, wrote out his alphabet so that we could communicate.
Is that like what's that? First Encounters of the Third Kind
Close Encounters
that
of the
they
Third
play?
Kind.
Yeah, oh yeah. Dun, 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 dun. That's what like they. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, well, so that was what year it was Close Encounters?
Late 70s, I think.
Yeah, so this was 25 years before that.
Okay, so it could have
Um,
very well been like, hey, I've heard stories of.
I've talked about Operation Mockingbird and how they do I can't remember the term for it now, but like where they give you a little bit of information to desensitize you to it. Predictive programming.
Oh yeah,
That's what it is.
1977.
19 Yeah.
1977.
Well, Eben one died in 1952, so that's 25 years previous. So that's
It
yeah.
was it was that movie is actually the celebration of life of Eben too.
Eben one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to Eben two yet.
Let's go.
So they also communicated using hand gestures. I'm assuming gang signs.
I was gonna say throwing up blood.
Yeah, that's all we taught Eben, and then sent him home. Um,
No
uh,
wonder he's dead.
Apparently, according to Eben one, the Ebens had been visiting Earth for approximately 2,000 years. And so, again, what bothers me about this is it 2,000 years from their planet? Is it 2,000 years on our planet? Is it is it 2,000 years from like a random point in space between the two planets? Like what 2,000 years is it? Um, so I think that was an important detail that maybe got stepped over. Um,
Yeah.
According to Eben one, our radar took his ship down because it's technology that they don't have.
Huh.
According to Dr. Stephen Greer, that's not true. He said,
I was gonna say, I'm trying to think of how that would even.
how you going to be interplanetary, interstellar, and not be able to hang with a sound wave bouncing off of you, you know? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but what they
It's
use,
like signs.
yeah, where they're,
The water is the weakness.
yeah. Well, hold on, wait, what? I haven't seen.
Really, the M Night Shyamalan signs.
I'm kidding.
Oh, I was like, wait,
Um,
what, buddy?
um,
It ain't
so
great, but you got to see it.
they have, there is a weapon, a radar weapon known as scalar radar. And that's what was used. It's a targeted radar weapon, and that's what was used to take the ship down. And it had been going on for a few years. It had been around since like 1945.
The
And
government was oh, that? Oh, no, I wouldn't worry about that little guy.
yeah, and they were shooting down UFOs. After reports of like foos started coming in, the Foo Fighters in World War II. So that's kind of where scalar radar came in.
They're like, what? Who does it have to be unidentified to
Right?
in order for us to shoot it down?
So Eben one salvaged a communication device from the wreckage, and he was allowed to repair it. He said, can I repair this? It'll let me send messages back to my planet. The Air Force was like, yeah, but
Eben, phone home.
yeah, they were like, but you got to teach us about this 0 point energy device inside your ship here. And he was like, yeah, okay. And so he spent the better part of the 5 years trying to communicate with his home planet and never receiving an answer, unfortunately. It
Was
was
he just like technologically one of the worst? They just sent him. They're like, I don't know, throw him in the pod.
like like
Fucking
like how the
goddamn it.
Russians sent Laika into space. It's just a dog, and
Yeah, and how
he's
Zeta,
just their
Zeta
Laika.
Reticuli sent like basically monkeys, and they ended up being the Kelly Hopkinsville experiment.
Yeah. Um,
That's personal theory of my own. I know you're aware
I,
of.
I like it. I like it. It tracks on more levels.
Yeah.
So he never received a reply from his home planet, but basically the way they use wormhole technology to send messages and travel, but to send messages, because they were sending messages to the planet Serpo, which is in the Zeta Reticuli system, approximately 39 and a half light years away from us.
Zeta Reticuli.
I believe it is this one here.
Very good. Thank you for the star map.
I believe.
Well, I won't be traveling there, so you don't have to be correct. It's okay.
Well, let me tell you. So they because after EBA 1 died, they knew the technology. They had the communication device, and they kept trying. They knew the language, and so they were trying and trying and trying to communicate with Serpo. Finally, they did, and the Ebens on Serpo responded, and we communicated back and forth. They learned English. We got better with uh with Eben.
Ebenese?
Yeah, I don't know, whatever, with the tones, and we would talk back and forth, and basically they said, hey, we're gonna come back and pick up our crew's bodies, and we were like, cool, give us technology. And
Yeah, we like Bluetooth.
they were like, nah, you guys aren't ready for that yet.
Also, you're not even cool, bro.
Yeah. Which also, how do you want your crew's bodies back? It's been like 10 years since Roswell.
We mummified them and they're perfectly preserved, but you tell us.
Well, yeah, I just imagine they're like floating in vats in some underground military base, and they're like, oh my God, you guys are monsters. What are you doing to them? So anyway, the government doing what the government does and all of its infinite wisdom said, we're not giving you your crew until you give us technology. They said, why would we give a monkey a machine gun? But they did offer
For fun.
they did offer a different solution. They said, when we come back to pick up our crew, we will take some of your guys back to Serpo with us and, do that. And we were like, all right, bet. Yeah. So they assembled this team of 12 astronauts, including Colonel McKeever. And he said they underwent like some insane testing for like the training and stuff. It was a year-long training course for this. And they did like evasive driving and intelligence gathering and weapon training and explosives training and mathematics and physics, and they learned about Eben history, and they learned how to pilot the Eben vehicles, which according to Dr. Greer, it takes two hands. One runs a lever that gives you juice, and the other hand is on a trackball that controls where the ship goes. And the way it works is it shrinks space-time in front of you so that you can travel like through space-time faster because it's a shorter distance, and it expands space-time behind you. So you never feel you're trapped in a bubble between basically you're in stasis in between the two states of space where it's expanding and contracting, so you never feel the G-force. You don't feel you moving into light speed or through a wormhole. You're stationary and you're just there, if that
But
makes
could
sense.
you go faster if you rub cheetah blood on the engine?
Absolutely. That's the only way
Okay.
that you could go faster. In fact, that's why the
Very
Ebens were on Earth, is they were looking for cheetahs, which had been mined to extinction on their planet. Um,
Almost
so-
here too, but we hadn't used them to their full potential.
Yo, have you heard about the cheetah's genetic bottleneck?
No.
Dude, at one point there were so few cheetahs on the planet that genetically they're almost all identical. Like you can, if you had to do like an organ transplant on a cheetah, there's almost a 0% chance that if you plucked a cheetah out of the wild at random and donated organs or blood, there would be almost a 0% chance of rejection.
Huh.
Yeah, because
I didn't know that. It's fucking wild.
their species came down to a bottleneck of like less than 100 cheetahs on the planet, and then the population, like it was like sub 50 cheetahs. It was crazy. It's some crazy thing.
That is wild. Fun. I think the most funny thing about them is that they don't like have the capability at all to roar.
Yeah,
or be loud.
They're
just
big
meow.
small cats.
Yeah. They meow and purr.
Yeah, they go.
That's funny.
So one of the tests that these guys had to do in their year of training, they were buried underground in a 7x5 like cell um for 5 days and just left there with
Oh,
only a small hole for air and food and water. No
gives me so
communication.
much anxiety.
And they Colonel McKeever said everybody passed this, but some people really struggled with like the isolation like that.
Yeah.
Like it fucked them up. So they in 1964 the Ebens returned for their crew. They went to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, and the crew was told to bring kind of whatever they wanted or needed because they're going to be on Serpo for 10 years.
Oh,
So yeah, this isn't like
it sounds like the colonists. They're like, all right, we're gonna head back for supplies. We'll see you guys in 4 years.
yeah, I mean, they're like, okay, so you got 10 years, you guys are going to be there. This is supposed to be a 12-year mission. So it's a year of training, 10 years on Serpo, and then a year of quarantine and debriefing when you get back.
Oh shit.
Which that's why they scrubbed all these people's identities, because you're gone. You got to
Yeah.
disappear. So um yeah, so they got to
Just a
bring.
bunch of dummies falling over dams, getting sucked up in turbines and being taken away by beavers.
Hey, what's Oma doing up there? Um so what they ended up bringing 40 tons of gear, like, on this spaceship. It
That's a
was
lot of
like,
gear.
I'm talking, they brought a bunch of guns and ammunition. They brought like
On a
three
spaceship?
they brought like 3 or 4 Jeeps and like 10 motorcycles. And yeah, you're like, what the fuck? Um but everything got loaded with anti-gravity technology. So that was cool for them to see. And then they got on the ship, and the ship took off and went to a larger ship. And you know that scene in Star Wars where like the Millennium Falcon pulls in and docks, and you know what I'm talking about, where like they're in that big loading bay.
Yes. 100%.
So you can tell I'm serious because I didn't call it Star Trek or anything.
Yep, yep.
Um,
You're backtracking though.
but keep it tight. Um, so I picture something similar to that, because he said they pulled in and the ceiling of this thing had to have been 100 feet high, and they pull in and dock in this bay, and everything was unloaded and taken down into this larger ship. And he said they were in the larger ship kind of looking around at stuff, checking stuff out. He said they were shown like the control panel, and there was a white light, and then it turned red, and he was like, are we moving? And he said before they even answered, he like got lightheaded and blacked out.
Oh.
And then he woke up later, was like, whoa, what the fuck? And like I guess everybody was just like super sick from the G's. Like our bodies aren't designed for hyperspace yet.
What?
Right.
We
And
haven't evolved that?
yeah, not yet. So every time we crawl out of the primordial ooze, some fucking jerk time travels back and kicks us back in, man. So they're on the ship. They're looking around. They're invited to look around. They get to go see they called it the quote unquote engine room, but they said it didn't have an engine. What it had was a large cylinder in the middle of the room with other cylinders pointed to it, and like pipes running from one to the other, and like a circle around it, if that makes sense. So
That's
they
where
had,
the cheetah blood goes.
well, what it's using is liquid mercury, and it's rotating it at a high speed, and that's causing the anti-gravity 0 point energy technology. And what the cool thing about that is that, well, I'll get to it. So um this
Tease.
Colonel McKeever kept a journal of everything. He kept a diary, and it was like 3,000 pages.
Oh,
He ended up writing a report at the
just a
end.
light read.
Yeah. And So yeah, they saw according to his diaries, they saw the 100-foot ceilings in the big ship. He said he didn't understand how the ship could even fly because it was so large. He's like, I don't know how it moves this fast, being as big as it is, but it does. It took him approximately 270 days to get to Serpo, so like 10 months.
Yeah.
He said they were, a lot of the crew struggled because they were getting sick, and when they would get sick, they would get this like chalky drink and these little dry, tasteless biscuits, and it would make them feel better instantly. But
Huh.
they were just a bitch to eat. Um, he said they saw the engines, and so the engines seemed to be similar to the propulsion units described by Dr. Greer and Bob Lazar. And if you go back in like certain religious texts, they refer to ships called Vimani, and these Vimani have rotating liquid mercury engines, according to these old religious texts. So,
Wild.
and those are like 6,000 years old.
Oh.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
that
Makes sense.
I think that's fun. Um, uh,
Checks out.
Unfortunately, on the trip, one of the crew members died, and now these guys don't have names. They've all been like assigned numbers. And so this guy's name was like 846 or something like that, and he died on the trip.
He's like, where'd the other 845 go before me?
Well, they made a bunch of them like really tense because they were like, "What happened?" And the Ebens were like, "He died," and they were like, "Well, let us see him," and they were like, "Can't do that." And he's like, "No, you're gonna do that," and they're like, "Nah, sorry, can't do that." And he's like, "Fine, I'm going to get the guns," and he like stormed off. And one of the Ebens on the ship was like, "Hold on, there's been a mistranslation. Yes, he is dead. You can't see him because he's in quarantine until we can figure out why he died. Because it can't get to everybody else. We're stuck on this ship
Yeah.
together for 10 months. You can't it's not that simple."
Right.
Which he understood. At that point he was like, "Okay, I respect that. But can we examine him?" So they went and examined him. It turns out he died of an aneurysm. Which, a freak thing. That shit can just happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And especially when you're going through wormholes and shit.
I was just gonna say, like, I wonder how space affects things like an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Probably quite a bit.
Well, I was gonna say there's no I was gonna say there's no gravity, but Colonel McKeever did say that he was surprised how gravity was uniform throughout the ship, and he expected to be weightless.
Uh,
Um, so they land on Serpo after like 270 days. He said they were given goggles that were like welding shades, like the little round
yeah.
welding.
Yeah.
They were given goggles like that to put on. They opened the door, and he said immediately it was like standing in front of a hair dryer. Said it was like 107 degrees on Serpo. It's got two suns. That's because it's part of the Zeta Reticuli binary star system. Um, so he said it looked a lot like the Southwest. He said it looked a lot like Arizona, New Mexico, like just rocky desert.
Turquoise.
Yeah, rocky desert everywhere, and it's never in complete darkness because of the two suns. Although
Ah.
they're pretty far apart. There's still when you're this side of the planet's facing this sun, this side of the planet's
Right.
facing
Right.
that's
Right. Right.
so yeah, that puts you in constant daylight, or at least like in Alaska where they have even when
2-star system would suck.
it's dark, it's light. um
Right.
According to the guy's diaries, the Ebens are a primitive species, although technologically advanced. He said there was about 650,000 Ebens on their planet, and they live in adobe huts, or it's like a similar style hut. Like they have like these,
It's so ridiculous.
they're like domes, but they're adobe brick, like obviously made from the resources on the planet. But they have these big domes that they live in. And in the middle of all the villages, there's this great big tower with a mirror on the top, and that's used to tell time. Which I guess
Huh.
because you're in a 2-star system and it's never dark, you probably struggle
It's
with.
like a big sundial.
I would assume something of the sort. Um, According to the diaries, they have a fairly traditional family structure, like a father, a mother, and 2 children per household. And then the children mature really quickly, and then they're isolated and they're tested. And when they're tested, they're tested for special skills and their intelligence and stuff like that. And then they're placed in professions according. So like once they've matured a little bit, it's like, what are you good at? Oh, you're good at this, so we're going to put you in that field and give you specialized training in that to make you better at that.
Right.
And they do it that way rather than which seems, I mean, it seems effective. What I've noticed about listening to what these guys have said and like reading the diaries and listening to the encounters and stuff like that is that the Ebens are a lot less based on emotion and a lot more based on logic. Like it's this is what's good for the hive, not what's good for me. So like we all live in Adobe huts because we don't need big glamorous houses. Because that's not good for us, that's good for me. And taking the kids away and making them specialized is good for society, not good for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like there's a lot of that, especially so. Um, the dead crew member was taken and used for science, and they were like, "Whoa, what the fuck? Like, we want our crew member back." And they were like, he's
Your crew
gone.
member is science now.
They were like, we taken and used him for cloning. And they were like, whoa, what? You can't do that. And they're like, yeah. And so he's like, I want to see him. I want to see where they are. Take me to him now. And they're like, all right then. And they took him to this they took him in like a hover car to this building. He said it was like a giant airplane hangar. And they went in and they went through this building, and it had these vats, like glass tubs, and it had all kinds of different species of animals in it that were like obviously from their planet, but had been like genetically modified and crossbred with the Ebens, and in order to create hybrids. And like he described, like, I mean, these things are fucking Cronenbergs all the way.
Yeah.
And he said, and the full descriptions can be found like in the diary, but like he said there were like alien bodies with like dog heads, and there were animals that were like white, and he said not skin white but the color white. And like there was this big black animal with blood red eyes, and he said they saw the remnants of their crew member, um and he'd been like dissected and kind of cut up and stuff like that. And
I hate it.
yeah, they said there was one alien body that had human arms and legs. And they were like, yeah, these are from your crew member. And he's like, yo, we've been here for like 4 hours. How did you do this already? So like that's the level of science that they're working on. But he was like, I don't know. He's like, I don't ever want to go here again. Ever again. Like, take me out of here. I never want to be here again. And they took him out and they never took him back. Like they were like, we're not trying to scare you, but you said you wanted to see. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
They scared him straight.
yeah. So ultimately, like they were on the planet for like 10 years. But because of like time dilation, it actually ended up being closer to 12 years. A couple of the
Time dilation gets us all.
a couple of the crew members stayed behind because they fell in love with Ebens, and stayed.
Like sexually or
Absolutely.
culturally or
Yes, they fell in love and stayed
all
on
of
the
the
planet.
above.
Yeah, the Ebens are all vegetarians, but they let them hunt the animals on the planet. One of the guys said he was like, yeah, the animals taste like bear, like bear meat. So kind of,
But from what I understand, bear's not very good.
yeah, it's kind of gristly. So
But we get to fuck these aliens, so
I mean, isn't that the whole point of the U.S. military is to fuck aliens? Because all the documents I've read, that's all they're trying to do. No, so a couple of them
is
died.
this the episode that gets us suicided?
I've been working on that all week. I've been telling people about the UFO I saw.
Oh shit.
So yeah, a couple of the crew members died on the planet and were buried there. A couple of them stayed behind, and the rest of them came back. So all in all, I think of the 12 that went, I think 7 or 8 came back because one died on
I
the way
guess
there
that's not
too.
terrible.
Yeah, it's not terrible for a 12-year mission to another planet, fucking 40 light years
Right.
away. And when they came back, a couple of them retired. A couple of them were like, "We're just gonna go right back to it, man," and went back to work in the Air Force and just kept Air Forcing. Like,
Grinding.
yeah, which I'm like, yo,
Grinding.
how do you go back to like fighting petty wars here on Earth when you're like, yeah, dude, I just spent over a decade on an alien planet. Like, how do you sit in the chow hall on base somewhere and listen to some plug fucking talk about how he's like, "Oh man, I miss my wife. I sure hope we don't have to do any training exercises today." And you're like, "Yo, I just spent a decade on a foreign planet. Like 40 light years away with 2 stars, bro. What are you talking about? Shut the fuck up." Like I would just tear everybody to shreds.
There
Every
was no night, you
Yeah.
asshole.
I haven't seen a sunset in 12 fucking years. Like so yeah, and everybody involved, all the people who went are dead now. Colonel McKeever died in like 2002, I think. But anyway, all that's to say, Richard Doty was he was a disinformation agent for the Office of Special Intelligence, Office of Special Investigations, OSI, and this was allegedly his doing. He made up the entire story.
Allegedly.
He did the whole story. There's a book called Journey to the Planet Serpo, and it tells the whole story. But allegedly, this was all manufactured by, or I'm sorry, not manufactured. Well, part of it was manufactured by Richard Doty and posted online as anonymous on message boards and stuff like that. So basically, he put it on 4chan.
Okay.
Along with other stories, he's done that before and like gotten caught because a lot of the IP addresses tracked back to one email address that he used, and so
Didn't even use a VPN.
and that's what they said, and he was like, no, I did that so that you guys would find this and know that it was me and know that I was trying to help you out, because now he goes to like all kinds of like UFO conventions and
Huh.
like reveals secrets, and he's like, yeah man, you've totally seen him. Like if you Google him and you've seen like any sort of UFO show, like you're gonna be like, oh fuck, that guy. And
Remind me of his name again.
Richard Doty, Doty, and
Oh
he's
yeah, it's your name right now.
yeah, um,
Oh yeah, 100%. That mustache.
yeah,
Cannot.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the guy. And
Okay.
he allegedly, along with like other like crazy elaborate UFO stories, allegedly he created this, but there's or parts of it. But he went in like certain interviews, he's like, oh yeah, this was way before me. I'm just telling you what I've heard about the story and all that, because like I said, he goes to UFO conventions now and he's like, oh, here's the inside scoop on what's really going on. None of that stuff was fake. And so yeah, I
Did you
mean
want
that
my autograph or?
anyway, that was pretty much it. Like they came back in the late 70s, and like I said, they died in the early 2000s, and that's fucking Project Serpo, dude. We did an international or interplanetary interstellar exchange program.
Yeah. I don't know why, but no matter what, when you were describing the Ebens, I just saw ET the entire time.
Well, so he said that they looked like the classic sci-fi aliens, like big head, big eyes, skinny
Okay.
body, 3 or 4 fingers on each hand and each foot, and like he described that like when he went to that facility where they were in the vats and stuff, he mentioned that they were in like little blue scrubs and stuff booking around in there, or not scrubs but like blue clothes, and they were boogieing around in there.
Huh.
Yeah, so like I mean,
Strange.
if it's
So strange.
if it's not real, what a fantastic work of fiction.
Right. I need the movie.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to see if I can find the audiobook and just listen to that, and if it's good, I will recommend it because
100%. I'm
yeah.
there for it. I need recommendations. Send them on down.
Oh, buddy, I've got some for you. I
Oh,
mean,
I know.
it's
Send
all the
down
shit
the
I'm in.
sane ones.
It's all the shit I'm into, but they're good stories nonetheless.
I'll pick through it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
All right.
That's Serpo. That's Operation Crystal Night.
That was beautiful. Thank you. I a few times you I was just so focused in on what you were talking about that I just like zone, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're podcasting.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you for painting me a word picture.
yeah. It was great. Okay, so I have a second Kelly G one here. This one is about uh a super prison. You know, think about
Super
like
jail?
super jail maybe. This one is about a
Life
prison
on the
called ADX
outside ain't
Florence.
what it used to be.
uh, so let's see. Kelly G says, "Ever wonder where they keep the criminals that are prone to busting out of prison? How about the ones that they're that are going to try to murder other people, or other people are going to try to murder? What about the ones that don't care about what happens to them, rendering prison rules useless? The answer is the Alcatraz of the Rockies, called ADX Florence. It's in a pretty remote part of Colorado, and it is the only federal supermax prison in the United States. I would have assumed we had all of them, buddy.
Well, the other one's in
There are
Guantanamo Bay.
UK and Canada, technically not a federal supermax in Guantanamo, I
It's a
guess.
black site. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. There are also ones in the UK and Canada. It was opened in the late 94, early 95, and the only prison designed for everyone to be in solitary confinement.
So everybody gets their own room.
Everyone gets their own room. I mean, the only reason you end up at this prison is reasons that you would need to. They would just keep you in your own room. Initially in 1994, its building cost $60 million. It was designed to hold inmates that pose extreme security threats and to hopefully keep them there for no longer than 3 years. Spoiler alert, they kept them there for longer than 3 years. Basically, like, even the prison designer was like, yo, it's fucked up to keep people here longer than 3 years. And so ADX Florence just puts them there for the rest of their life.
That you said it was built in 94?
It was opened in 94.
Oh, okay.
Late 94, early 95.
I can't help but
And
wonder
the
because
only prison.
that's the same year that Denver Airport was opened.
So it is supposed to, quote, try to extract reasonably peaceful behavior from extremely violent career prisoners. It was needed because on October 22nd, 1983, at Marion Federal Prison in Illinois, correctional officers Merle Klutz and Robert Hoffman were killed. The leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, Thomas Silverstein, and another member of the Brotherhood named Clayton Fountain stabbed the guards due to inadequate prison design. So basically, there's this prison, Marion Federal, and that wasn't tough enough, and that's what leads to ADX Florence. That's like this. That's the start of it all, you know. And it's the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood who kicked it off. So apt.
The Aryan Brotherhood kicked it off.
Yeah, I mean, the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, Thomas Silverstein, and another member, Clayton Fountain, stabbed officers Merle Klutz and Robert Hoffman in Marion Federal Prison because basically they're outnumbered. There are too many
Yeah.
prisoners, not enough guards. So because of this, they changed the prison to, quote, all lockdown, and the locked down version of Marion Federal Prison, as well as Alcatraz, served as early models for ADX Florence and Pelican Bay, which is another supermax prison in California, but it's not a federal supermax, just a supermax. Once ADX Florence was opened, they sent Thomas Silverstein, the guy that killed the guard, there, and he died serving his life sentence. The practices at ADX have been considered draconian. Norman Carlson from the Federal Bureau of Prisons has answered these claims, saying it is for people, quote, with absolutely no concern for human life. So he's basically saying, like, people are like, "Oh, it's borderline torture there," and he's like, "Yeah, we know."
With no regard
Like,
for human life.
yes. As of April 19th, 2023, there are 326 male inmates. Dangerous women go to the Federal Medical Center in Carswell in Fort Worth, Texas. The male inmates at ADX Florence are broken into 6 security levels: general population, special housing unit, special security unit, control unit, intermediate and transitions unit, and range 13.
Ooh.
They're all for different clearance levels. For example, the control unit is for people with serious conduct violations or violent at other institutions. Also, high level members of organizations deemed threats, such as prison gangs. The special housing unit is for terror groups or inmates who have special administrative measures. So basically, if you're allowed to like kind of have a night off and stay in one of these nice special housing units, or you're a terrorist. Those are the two reasons you might find yourself in the special housing unit. Range 13 is a 4-cell wing within the special housing unit. These 4 cells are the highest controlled within ADX. There are motion detectors throughout the entire prison, as well as cameras. It features 1,400 remote controlled steel doors,
Yo.
and the staff to inmate ratio is high. There are pressure pads within the prison, and 12-foot tall razor wire fences, laser beams, and attack dogs surrounding the facility. Obviously, the laser beams don't do cool like sci-fi laser beam shit, but it is motion detection.
You don't know that.
No, you're right. I don't.
They think it's motion
Um,
detection, but it just cuts your foot off when you walk through it.
yeah. So if you're wondering what the conditions are like for these guys, for the first 3 years, they live in a soundproof 7 by 12-foot cell for 23 hours a day. The 1 hour that they are let out of the cell can happen at any time of the day or night and is not on a set schedule. In their cell is a bunk, a desk, a stool, and a shelf, and everything is made out of concrete. So there's obviously like a thin mattress on top of the bed, but like the bed comes out of the wall and is concrete. There's like a little shelf under the bed and it's concrete. And there's a bench and a desk and it's concrete. So like everything in your bedroom is made of concrete. And then you have a steel sink and you have a steel toilet.
Those should be
And
concrete
that's it.
too.
Yes. There's also a window that is 3 feet high and 4 inches wide. Um, some cells, yeah, it sucks. Some cells have showers that run on a timer, and that's to prevent flooding. And also, they're controlled by the prison, so like you can't just wake up at 3 in the morning and jump in your shower in your room. They'll have it shut off, or at least they'll have the hot water shut off.
Oh, I thought they'd be like on a timer. It just goes room to room. So like, 2 in the morning, your shower kicks on. You got to jump up, strip, get in there, rinse off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Most cells have a mounted mirror light that is controlled remotely and a radio. The reason that they do the 3 feet high by 4 inches wide windows is to prevent inmates from knowing their location in the facility, because all of those 3 foot high by or 3 by 4 windows look basically you can either see the sky or the roof of part of a building below you, and it's like indistinguishable from anything else in the entire facility.
Nice.
So that's the idea of it's like, yeah, here's some sun, but don't get comfortable knowing which direction you're facing.
Psychological torture.
Yeah. They have no contact with other inmates. They never at any point allow them to cross, like they don't pass each other in the hallway. If they needed to pass in the same hallway, they would keep one behind a locked door, one would pass through, the other would get locked away, then they would open it and allow you know what I mean? Like
That's so
they wouldn't
exhausting.
be in an open hallway. It is, but that's the safety
Do you think they still
that they
communicate
do.
like the other prisons where they'll like flush stuff down the toilet and then the bottom guy will flush the toilet and catch the You know what I mean? Because like the pipes are all connected, so they'll like run a string with a thing down. You ever seen that?
Um, yeah, for sure. No, because I know for a fact that the toilets are safe toilets that shut off if if basically there's a thing inside that triggers if the toilet is being clogged and be like beyond a reasonable, you know,
Okay.
clog. So yeah, there's like automatic shutoffs in the toilets basically. So you couldn't flush something as a message
Huh.
even if you wanted to.
Okay.
Wild, right? So basically they're spending little to no time outside of their cells. Like minimum spending 23 hours a day in their cell. It's minimum.
As you do.
As you do. They are sometimes taken outside of their cell to exercise, and it is in a concrete pit that looks similar to an Olympic-sized empty swimming pool. The inmate is given 10 steps if they walk in a straight line, or 31 steps if they walk in a circle. The pit is also designed so as to not let the inmate know their location within the facility. So from the bottom of that pit, there's no view of anything that could give away where you're at.
That's so crazy. Like, I mean, I would imagine somebody there would eventually have to start counting steps and turns and stuff like that, which means they probably
Yeah,
take them on some crazy elaborate route or don't take them the same way every time.
yeah,
You know, like
and
I don't know, it's just crazy. That's so elaborate.
yeah. Here's hey, did you want to exercise? Just shove them into the pit. Don't look around.
Hey, that's
Don't look
32
around.
steps, asshole.
We said 31. Um, Inmates can request 20 total visitors. You have a list of 20 visitors who may visit you. No more than 3 can visit you at any given time. You can earn phone calls, and obviously, you're earning your visits too, by the way. Some inmates can gradually socialize after their first 3 years. So,
So you're not supposed to be there
uh,
for more than 3 years, but after you're there for more than
right.
3 years, then you get some social privileges.
And that's kind of their like, hey, we start to blend, and then there is a gen pop. But basically, you're on a 3-year probation that is solitary confinement. That puts you in that room, puts you no passing anybody in the hallways,
God, it's
none of
so
that shit
brutal.
for your first 3 years in the prison. And again, yeah, then they start mixing them in small groups in general population. Remember, this prison only has 326 prisoners. Robert Hood, the ADX warden from 2002 to 2005, said the Supermax is life after death. It's long term. In my opinion, it's far much worse than death. ADX Florence has seen a murder. Manuel Torres got stomped in the yard after he got left without guard supervision. In addition, 8 inmates are suspected to have died by suicide. As of yet, no one has escaped from ADX Florence. That's basically it about the prison, but we have some notable current inmates of ADX Florence. You ready for this?
I was gonna ask because I'm like, I never heard about guys like Jeffrey Dahmer
Oh,
going there who fucking ate.
okay. So how about this? Would you like to hear first notable current inmates, or would you like to hear notable former inmates
Let's
first?
go former inmates first, and then we'll get to the. Let's
Okay.
introduce the alumni before we get to the current team.
Notable former inmates of ADX Florence. Timothy McVeigh,
Ah,
executed in 2001. A lot of these, Kelly G went ahead and left the name out, and I didn't put it in. I respected how she wrote it. She puts the guy who killed Jeffrey Dahmer. So remember, we said at the beginning, like guys who kill people in prison end
oh,
up at this prison. So the guy who murdered Jeffrey Dahmer in prison ended up in this prison. Basically, also, he killed one of the most famous serial killers of all time, putting a target directly on his back as well.
well, also, I mean, I feel like that's pretty ironical that he wound up in that prison for killing Jeffrey Dahmer, but the guy who like used to try and make sex slaves and then eventually ate people and then fed them to other people
He got put in Gen
didn't
Pop.
didn't go to that. Yeah, like you know what I'm saying? Like that guy killed one person.
Yeah.
I just
Um,
seems ass backwards, but what do I know?
Uncle Unabomber himself, Ted Kaczynski. Joseph Duncan III, who was a serial molester of children. The stepfather of Tupac Shakur.
Huh. Oh, because he
And
was a Black Panther.
yeah, and several Al Qaeda members, gang members, and mob bosses, gang leaders, and mob bosses. So just a lot of the names you've heard, as far as like,
I feel like it's like every time they show a mental asylum or a prison in The Simpsons, whenever somebody's walking down the main row, it's just always a bunch of big names right up front. Like there was, Hannibal and Sideshow Bob and Fat Tony and like
yeah.
that's what I feel like it would be like walking through here. Timothy McVeigh, Ted Shashevsky, fucking, you know, John Gotti, Tupac's stepdad, fucking, you know what I mean? Like you're just walking by and it would just be like a display of the worst of the worst.
I feel like get ready for these current
Oh,
inmates
I
of
forgot those aren't
ADX
even.
Florence.
Yeah, what's the current
Those
roster look like?
those were the alumni.
Starting at point
The
guard.
the 1993 World Trade Center bombers.
Ah,
The 1998 U.S. Embassy bombers.
the 1996 U.S. men's national basketball team.
Richard Reed, the shoe bomber.
Yeah.
The underwear bomber.
Okay, a lot of bombers.
Osama bin Laden's son-in-law. Terry Nichols, the assistant to Timothy McVeigh.
Oh yeah.
Timothy McVeigh. Former intelligence analyst and U.S. State Department officer who pled guilty in 2009 and to espionage, and former FBI agent assigned to counterintelligence who pled guilty to espionage in 2002. Front boss of a Chicago outfit, a leader of a New York Latin Kings, an Aryan Brotherhood gang founder, founder of the United Blood Nation, El Chapo, leader of Sex Money Murder Gang, Michael Swango, who's a doctor and serial killer who was actually sent there due to his own request.
Hold on.
The Boston Marathon bomber. Yep.
Can we pause this for just a second?
Of course.
Sex Money Murder Gang.
Mhm.
Like, how did they get all the fun stuff? It's like the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, but a gang. Like,
yeah, you just kill it. You just kill everybody else. It's third thing in the name. Third thing in the name.
And when
so Michael Swango,
when you say the Boston Marathon bomber, that kid?
Yeah, that kid.
All right.
Yeah. Kelly G puts 9/11 guy. So I don't, obviously someone in connection with it, because
In my opinion, it should be Larry Silverstein, Dick Cheney, George Bush Sr., any of those guys, but really it's probably some poor Middle Eastern fella who had nothing to do with anything.
and they're like, and here you go. You get to go into our coolest federal prison here. There you go.
Imagine being that Boston Marathon bomber kid, and you're in there with like the leader of the founder of the Aryan Brotherhood and fucking Timothy McVeigh's right hand, and like, it's been 3 years since the Boston bombing, dude. Imagine you're out there trying to do some jumping jacks in the pit, and that guy's 32 steps seem to be getting awful close to you. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. The last one on the list is the Olympic bomber, Atlanta Olympic bomber, 1996.
That was a long time.
What was his name? Eric Robert Rudolph.
Ooh, good pull.
Yeah. So that's it, man. That's ADX Florence. Some sources really quickly. Kelly G gave us Wikipedia, Washington Post, New York Times, San Francisco Chronicle. What a fucking crazy place that I was like vaguely aware existed, but not to this extent.
You know what? Do you know? I just did a little Google mapping. Do you know what's directly between that prison and Dallas International Airport?
What?
The Cheyenne
Wait,
Mountain
Denver
Complex.
International Airport?
That's the one. Denver
Oh, okay.
International Airport. Yeah, you've never been to Dallas, Colorado, dude? Oh,
Did you say the Shining Hotel?
no, the Cheyenne Mountain
Oh.
Complex, the deep underground military base.
Oh, so there's probably just tunnels between the three?
I would guess so. I would think that when they go to Cheyenne Mountain, all the people that are like, "Oh, take us too," they'll be like, "All right, sure, go in this nuclear base right here. It's a fucking concrete box, and everybody gets their own
And guess
room."
what? Now you're food for the lizard people.
I mean, it
Nom,
just
nom, 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 nom,
it
nom, nom,
just
nom, nom.
seems like they're setting something up there. That's all I'm saying.
Heed Greg's warning.
Yeah,
For if you don't.
the end of the world happens, don't go to Cheyenne Mountain and try and get in. You're gonna wind up in Florence and the Machine's prison.
I think it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
I always think of Tommy Boy. 6 o'clock TV hour, don't get caught in a foreign tower.
That's how everybody sings that song.
Except Gwen Stefani. I watched her rock that on New Year's Eve one year.
You're like, damn, Gwen, you good.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and start aging now. It's okay.
This was post No Doubt too.
Dang. Go, Gwen. Good shit, man. That was a fun episode. Listen, you guys got a long one here. You got a long Chiller Chatter X.
We
Thanks,
had to make
Kelly
it a good
G,
one.
for providing that. Thanks, Greg, for just, I don't know, I guess kind of just freaking me out a little bit.
Really? Did it
And,
freak you out that we've
I don't
been
know. I don't know necessarily that it freaked me out. It's just listen to how I can interact and joke with you about all of the things you've told me about.
Yeah.
And I had not heard any of that.
Yeah.
So it's just new stuff. I'm gonna go to sleep now. I gotta be up in 5 hours. I'm gonna think of that probably this whole time. And
Hey, astral project yourself there.
okay, I'm
Wait,
gonna do it.
hold
I'm
on.
gonna let you know how it went.
Before you go.
Oh God.
Yeah, you got this. We're gonna open up the channels right now. Yeah.
Stop.
Go ahead.
Waves.
My guy.
Woo, buddy. All right, I'm going there.
Yeah, you're the
I'm
channel.
going there.
The channel's open.
Well, let's just keep this short and sweet. Thanks, buddy. This was fun. Everybody, go find us wherever you want to find us. Keep listening here. You know how to do it. And remember, don't talk to strangers.
Have fun on Serpo.